Hello and welcome to the Mac Gamecast episode 52. I'm Jon Carr as always, and with me is co-host Casper. How you doing, sir?
Woo woo. That's how I'm doing.
Yeah. Woohoo. Yeah. We're recording, my morning, your afternoon, a little earlier than normal. So thanks for accommodating me. There's no, crazy news, but there is a lot of fun tidbits to go over today. So, unless there's like a big Apple event or a big game release or whatever, like something new hardware, new Big Mac game to talk about, like we've done in past episodes, we wait till we collect a bunch of, tidbits that are actually worth more or less an episode's length, and then we schedule one. So that's what we're here today in number 52. Last time, of course, Casper took over for me, which was great with Andy and Ted. So that was a fun episode. Just in case people didn't notice, audio only, I actually published a video version for the first time with the three of them on YouTube. The audio version's there as well as normal, but there's a separate video that's also the video version. I probably should clean that up in the future where it's just the one, not both posted. But they're all on the same, MGC channel on YouTube. But if for some reason you wanted to go see their handsome mugs, you can do that. So that was a fun episode with Andy. I had a good time listening to that. And of course, Casper
did a lot of fun with him.
Did a great job hosting, so I appreciate that. I don't even know what I was doing. I was out of town, or I was something was going on. But that's that. So we have a bunch of Gamescon just happened, which is sort of, actually I don't even know where it's hosted. I just saw the streams because they have them in Europe or Germany, but also I think the US. So I'm a little unclear where it actually occurred.
I have no idea on that front. They have been in Germany in the past. So
correct. So maybe it was. I didn't check where it was. Anyway, it just happened. And there's some fun new games announced. Some of them already have Mac support. Some of them might have Mac support. We don't know. But of course, there was like a zillion games announced. But some of the ones that stood out to me, I mean, the one I'm most interested in is Borderlands 4, as a huge Borderlands fan. And of course,
didn't hear that one.
Well, it was a teaser, so we didn't see like real gameplay. Although,
right, very little information then.
Yeah, very little, other than it's going to be set on a totally new planet, not Pandora. And it's funny because I was just talking to my buddy David, who almost came on the show once, but you don't know. But he's also we actually played the first Borderlands together back in like 2008 or whatever heck it was.
Yeah.
That was on Windows at the time. Hadn't come out on Mac yet. But like we sat at a table together and played the first Borderlands. I think maybe even the first time we booted up the game. So it's like I have this really strong fun co-op memory with Borderlands 1. Even though I'd never go back and replay it. I think it's sort of terrible at this point. Borderlands 2, I don't think I could replay because I've put like 450 hours into it. Borderlands 3 I could easily replay. I think it still holds up, even though it's a 5-year-old game now. That seems weird to say. It's a 5-year-old game. Actually, that's not quite true. It'll be 5 years old in a month because it released September 27th. And it's only 2019. And it's August 25th, 2024.
You remember the pinpoint accuracy right there.
Yeah, well, it's a funny thing because I have this like specific memory for certain games that I really like, or maybe I was reviewing or covering or whatever. I used to, because I always, for some reason, I would say in any review when I used to do more journalism stuff, I'd be like, this is exactly when it released. So I had this and I'd be working on it for a week or two or whatever, especially if it involved a video. So it was just, this date was always in my head. So it's kind of funny.
Only one I could do that for would be Skyrim because they had all that 11 promotion stuff.
Yeah, right. That's easy. I remember because I pre-ordered Borderlands 3. I had it preloaded. I rushed home from work. Rushed. I live 5 minutes away. 5 minutes away from, drive home. And hopped on. I had a buddy lined up to play it with. And woohoo, Borderlands 3. So, the game crashed on me constantly. So that sucked. But that aside, it was like, yay. But yeah, Borderlands 4, not guaranteed to have Mac support. Borderlands 3 did from, as far as we can tell, an internal port from Gearbox. Not a very good one, but it still is a port. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands as a spin-off never received Mac support. But, unclear because Aspyr used to do Borderlands 2. Feral did Borderlands 1. Again, that weird Mac thing where like different studios do the ports. And then, of course, Gearbox did BL3. So we don't know, other than Borderlands 4 is coming in 2025. I assume later in the year, probably again, like around this time of the year or even winter.
Hmm.
It'll be set on a new planet, and other than that, we don't really know. I mean, if you know the story of Borderlands 3, there's sort of some setup there, or really the finale, which I don't want to really spoil, I guess, even though it's a 5-year-old game.
Hmm.
But I was talking to Dave, that's what I was saying. Talking to my buddy David, and we both agreed, like, the one thing Borderlands 4 needs is to be set on a totally new planet. Like, forget Pandora. We've been there way too many times. It's dusty, it's brown, it's boring at this point. It's just filled with skags and acid pools and whatever, and psychos. Like, gotta go to, like, somewhere new. Borderlands 3 did this, but they set, like, the first 10 hours of the game in Pandora, and then forced you in the finale to go back to Pandora for another, like, several hours. So it was like, so the game was bookended still by Pandora, even though in the middle was all these different planets. So
yeah,
we were like, just get that out of there. No Pandora. So it looks like they're doing that this time, which is good. And that's all we know. Other than Randy Pitchford said, like, who's the CEO or head or whatever, Gearbox, like, you know, we feel this will be the best Borderlands ever. Of course, this is just like promotional speak, right? Obviously, the guy's going to promote his own game.
They're always going to say that.
They're always going to say that. But he did say, and I hope it's true, like, we're trying to, you know, add something fresh and exciting to the game that's, you know, more of what you love, but also, like, cool new stuff. That is, of course, the standard pitch for any sequel, of course. I feel like they largely lived up to it in Borderlands 3. I mean, the story sucked, but everything else was better. So I'm hoping for a better story.
It's still the first one.
Yeah.
Like, I really enjoyed the first one. I thought both the second and third one, they tried to add too much. That like that core of it felt too diluted in a way.
I see what you mean. No, it's true. The first one had a simplicity that I can get behind. I like some of the Vault Hunters from the first game still the best, like Brick and Lilith, for example.
Yeah. They feel so much more memorable in a way, but that's also because it's the charm of the first one, I guess.
It is. And, you know, the story of the first one was solid. I mean, it's still better than the third one. It was more that the environments were, like, really bare bones.
Yes.
Like, really kind of drab.
Yeah, I remember. It was the second one where you started in, like, a snowy area, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember, like, the first time booting that up, it was like, this is cool. I like the environmental change of it, and it looked nice and all. But I don't know. Especially the co-op felt more clean in a way in the first one. Like you've had a focus that was more obvious for both players to, like, let's go to that and we do that together.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely spread out, especially by Borderlands 3. The skill trees got so enormous, and especially if you had the DLC, every character had 4 skill trees. And certain characters kind of had access to everything, so they were really, like, jack of all trades, any role and whatever. It became more of, like, I don't want to say generic powers fantasy, because I think that's too harsh, or too not quite the right descriptor. But yeah, it's true. Like any, I guess, series that goes on, you know, pros and cons occur, you know.
Yeah,
they lose stuff, but they gain stuff, you know.
Yeah, I think 2 and 3 might be better suited if you just want to play them single player, but I think the first one really did super well in that co-op setting.
They definitely designed it better, because you also had, like, Mordecai, who was a sniper with his hawk, though he had a pistol build, but most people went sniper. Then you had, like, the it was more almost like traditional D&D. Like, you had the big tanky guy in Brick who could run up and have lots of health and punch people in the face, and you had, like, the guy who hung back, like, the support hawk with the sniper. And Lilith could, like, almost be the assassin and, like, teleport around. And then you had Roland, who was, well, the gunman. I don't know what he would qualify as in, like, D&D terms, but it felt definitely more structured like a traditional RPG in a sense, as, like, as close as you get to that in a shooter, looter, whatever game, you know. It's true. It was definitely diluted more as the series went on overall. The pre-sequel had a little more of that as well. It kind of went back to that a bit more, because you had Athena with the shield, and then you had the guy with the 2 robot summons who are supporty, and I forget his name. Anyway, don't want to ramble forever about Borderlands, even though it's one of my favorite series. We had some other cool stuff. Civilization 7, we already known for a long time was coming, and we'll have Mac support, but you can pre-purchase it now on Steam. Also, remember, never pre-order.
Does it say Mac support on Steam already, or does it?
Yep.
Nice.
So that's fun. I think it's here. I looked at this earlier. I gotta go. I forget who it says the studio is. $70 game though. Much yikes. It's just for Access and 2K, so no like third-party studio. But yeah, right up front, Mac support coming February 11th, 2025, approximately 5 months. And the editions range from $70 to $100 to a whopping $130 Founder Edition. So I don't know what all that's about because I didn't look into it. I've never been a crazy Civ fan beyond like playing the demos or trial versions, or I got a review copy of the space one, Sid Meier's, whatever the heck it was. Yeah. That was way back. So yeah, I don't know enough about the series to say what's new, or like I tried to go and look quickly before the show, but I'm like, I don't know enough about the previous civilizations to go, aha, I can just read this bullet point and go, that's the new thing to talk about. So sorry, I can't cover that.
I mean,
but
they almost always do this thing where they add some new things, but then they remove a bunch of things. And then as DLCs come out, it reintroduced the things they removed as DLCs. It's the cycle of Civ. If you look at it in like a grand scope of things, I don't think that there's that much in Civ 6 that if you had all the expansion packs you didn't already have in Civ 3 or whatever. And there's still features in Civ 3 that aren't in Civ 6. It's not just they keep expanding it all the time. It's not necessarily just what's new, it's also what's been removed and how does it fit into the balancing of things in some way. While there's like a clear sense that all of the games are continuations and it's an evolution of the same strategy game, each game I would still say feels to a certain extent somewhat unique. If you go from like 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 and keep getting every one of them, each one might not feel that fresh, but I think if you skip just one of them, it does feel like a fairly new strategy game in itself. So.
Right. Right now, everything is just TBD, to be determined on the requirements. Like Windows, TBD, Mac OS, TBD, SteamOS and Linux, TBD. Yeah. So, as usual, I think the main thing they seem to be pushing is like the world's brought to life like never before. It's like a big graphical upgrade, and there's a lot more like animations and face-to-face interactions with other leaders, and maybe that already was a thing, I don't know. But I think they're now like fully 3D animated or something, as far as I could tell at a peek, because they showed a GIF of that and what looked like one of the founding fathers or something. I don't know, it was Benjamin, or some English guy, I don't know, some dude in a wig and a coat, and he had a book, and he was like moving and talking and whatever. But would I buy the game? No, but if it had a demo or some sort of trial version, I would definitely check it out, because, Civ. But that's coming, guaranteed Mac already, so that's cool. And I know Civ's a big franchise.
But we have no assumption that Aspire is going to be behind the Mac port.
No, yeah, correct. They're not listed on it. And quickest, might as well segue into Aspire really quick as a quick aside, and then back into Gamescom. You had discovered with an email, right?
I subscribed to their email newsletter, so I still get those. I subscribed way back when they were actually doing Mac things, and then I've just been getting all these irrelevant messages for ages.
Fake news.
Stuff just like, this 75-year-old game is still existing in the Mac App Store if you want it. Like, that's the kind of stuff I get from them. But anyway, in the latest email newsletter, they told me about this Star Wars Survivors, I think it was called. No, is that the new one? Whatever. Oh, man. Some old one. No, Bounty Hunters, I think was the name of it.
Something about
Star Wars Bounty Hunters. I've confused it with the new Jedi Survivor thing.
Yeah, right.
But they talk about this Jedi Bounty Hunter Star Wars game. And they say, available on all platforms. And I'm like, okay, I've never heard of this. I don't know what it is. It turned out it was an older game, but I looked into it and I'm like, let's see what this is about. Click into it, and it's like, it's available for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. No Mac support, but they list available on all platforms. So that sort of shows where their focuses have shifted away from us in the past few years.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a lot of love for Aspire, honestly, even though they've seemingly abandoned the Mac platform. Not only because I played their games, growing up and even as an adult. I spent a lot of time as a journalist in contact with them. I've interviewed some of their developers and heads. Oh my God, I forget her name, Elizabeth something, for example. I actually worked for them directly for some time, so you could say I'm biased, when they had the, oh my God, what was it called? The Mac Game something blog or the other. It was like Aspire's blog. They had me doing videos. Honestly, the 2 videos I did for them were terrible. I'm embarrassed. I wish I had done better on them, but that was when I was like just starting to do video. And thinking now, I'm like, I can't believe they paid me to do those. The videos were terrible. But videos aside, I was quite proud of my writing work. I think I put like a lot of effort into the articles. I did a lot of tutorials and how-tos and, especially because they occasionally wanted me to promote their stuff. So I did like, here's cool combos and powers in BioShock Infinite. Because of course they did BioShock Infinite. And there was a Borderlands 2 DLC release as well, that like a super late game one, like max levels, level 72, what's the word to call it? It's basically like challenge runs, like mega hard stuff. So I did a article/video on that. But otherwise, they actually let me do a lot of my own stuff, and I appreciated that. They let me do a piece on the Mac App Store and Apple, though it got revised later, but still it was an interesting article. I think it was called The Walled Garden. They let me do a lot of fun stuff with running games alternately on Mac. So I went through the whole gamut of stuff like, oh my God, I'm Crossover and obviously Boot Camp. And then I think even maybe Cider at the time, doing your own Cider wrappers. And of course, Parallels and Fusion. And like each article was its own like detailed thing. So that was fun. I still have them all saved somewhere because the website went away. Game Agent? I think it was Game Agent. I think it was Aspire's Game Agent. Yeah. So they had the blog and they even had their own app, kind of like how the Mac Game Store, MGS, Tuncer's thing. So it didn't survive, but anyway, I just had a lot of fun with in and around Aspire. So can't hate them even though they've abandoned us.
Yeah, I mean, I also have, Aspire did a lot of great things, and even outside of pure Mac thinking. They did the original Xbox port of Knights of the Old Republic 2, which was also fantastic, bringing that series to more people and stuff. So I appreciate a lot of what Aspire has done, which is why it's sad that it seems like they're becoming less relevant.
Oh, sorry, I'm plugging. I'm like shamelessly talking about my past here. They also let me join some sort of there's some sort of Quake 3 tournament they were hosting, or 4. Whatever one they did, one of them, I forget which. And I was playing one of the Aspire team who kicked my booty easily, 2-1. It was like a 1v1, and he, I got maybe 8 to 10 kills, and he got 20, 25 on me, But just for participating, they sent me a T-shirt anyway, an Aspire shirt, and I wore that thing till it faded to bits. Great shirt. So yeah, huge love for Aspire, and yeah, when we talk about them. If we sound disappointed or even occasionally critical, it comes from a place ultimately of we want them, not we don't care about them. So yeah, it's more of a shame. I have to wonder when their Knights of the Old Republic reboot they were working on, but seemingly botched it and got kicked off the project. I'm really curious if that would have had Mac support. I'm not saying it would have, but I'm are they on this odd trajectory where I don't know. They just don't have. I don't know. I can't speculate. There's no point in speculating.
Yeah.
It's like this alternate what if timeline, and we'll never know. Yeah, but segue aside on Aspire, back to there's a couple more fun games to talk about. Which the word I'm using has Mac lineage, meaning previous games in the series have had Mac entries. So we'll see. There was also there's a new Mafia game coming called Mafia Old Country, so it's set even further back, I think in Italy or Sicily or something. So it's like old timey Mafia stuff. Now I think the last Mafia game on Mac was Mafia 3 by Aspire.
Yep.
But Mafia 2 was done by Feral.
Yep, that's also my recollection of it.
But then the license expired, so you can't get it anymore unless you already
have
it.
But the original Mafia game never came to Mac, right?
No, never.
Yeah, that's
and of course, a couple of years ago, they did a Mafia remaster, I think, of both 1 and 2. I don't think 3, unless 3 was in there too or something weird. So we don't know, but Mafia 2 and 3 were technically on Mac, so maybe Mafia Old Country will see, from Feral or Aspire, probably not, because Feral's releasing one game a year. They just did another Total War update or something. Total War Pharaoh, I want to say. It's the game that's already out, but there's a huge update for it that apparently makes it way better, but what else from Gamescom? The other probably bigger news was, I don't know how to say his name, Peter Molyneux.
Yeah, that's right.
Peter Molyneux. He's coming. I don't know what he's been doing, but all the headlines are like he's coming back to PC. So he
did a phone game at some
stuff.
point. So
oh God in heaven! All right. So if for those of you unfamiliar with the infamous, or if you may not know him infamously, is Peter Molyneux. He tends to make these like God life type of games where you're in control of people or things, or they're typically called God games or God sims because like maybe your cursor's just a hand and you get to command people or do stuff. And he's had a lot of
Black and White, for example.
Yeah,
was
correct. Black and
very
White.
Classic one of those
From the 90s, I think, right?
The original might have been the 90s, but I think the second one was early 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s. Anyway, he's been around a long time, like 20, 30 years in the world. And he's infamous because he often like hypes his games to a high heaven. He's like he overpromises, underdelivers kind of a thing.
Yeah. But
everyone more or less buys into his hype anyway because it's so he tries to make games no one else is making, more or less, or have features no one else has done. What was that? Oh my God, I can't remember the name. That weird alien game you could make stuff and share your aliens.
Oh yeah. What
that was him as
named?
well. Oh my God.
It
had like a one word name.
Yeah.
Something. Anyway.
But yeah, now you mentioned that, I'd completely forgotten that existed until just now.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, he also made we say he made, obviously his team made, but his team was behind the Fable games that were.
I was about to bring up
Xbox.
Fable as well. Yep. Yeah. Which of course have a huge following, and they're doing some sort of Fable remake, which from what I looked a little suspect, but people are doing it. Yeah, he's actually done a ton of cool stuff. He was like a producer on the old Syndicate game way back, which is of course a huge cult hit. Yeah, and even way back in 1989, he did Populous. I think is one of the original Sims. Yeah, Black and White.
Populous was the one he made a phone game based off of. That was not at all like the original, but yeah.
And of course, yeah, Black and White 2, the movies, Fable 2, Fable 3, Godus. He's just done all kinds of stuff. Some mixed results, but he's like one of those creative types who's like too creative for his own good, sort of a thing. So he probably needs a team around him to make his vision okay, you have this really high concept or fancy complicated concept, but how can we actually translate it into a game people want to play? That's the deal. But anyway, I just like backstory. So he's coming out with a new game called Masters of Albion, I believe. And it already has Mac support listed on Steam. But what's the funny thing you noticed about it on Steam?
Did I notice something funny about it on Steam?
Something about the some of the Mac support or the requirements or something, right?
I don't think I've noticed anything particular.
Oh, someone did, unless maybe it was no. Masters of Albion. No, I think it says it. You go to requirements, and it says requires or minimum requirements are macOS 15 Catalina. But then Steam says this product is not compatible with macOS 10.15 Catalina or above.
Oh, I mean that's because they don't the 32-bit box thing. Steam has, but yeah. But
naturally, Masters of Albion is a simulation god game strategy city builder thing. Build by day, fight by night, an epic story of power and consequence. Design, build, and customize your world, from the food your people eat to the clothes they wear, the weapons they wield to the homes they live in. Possess characters at will in this unique god game. Masters of Albion. That's the pitch. I mean, some of that honestly sounded almost a little creepy, but...
I mean, yeah. But
I design your clothes and what you eat.
That's what you'd expect from one of those god games, right? So
yeah. Honestly, the graphics look great. Yeah, the phrasing's a little awkward. The graphics look good, and the camera angle looks fun. Yeah, give it a peek. It's just coming soon, so we don't know when it's coming. But it's just more Mac support, more Mac games. The thing about Peter M is he either spectacularly succeeds or spectacularly fails. He doesn't really have an in between. Yeah. So his stuff is a big hit everyone loves and talks about for years, or he just craters and everyone's like, what a doofus. Why?
In my opinion, Fable was the in between because so many people loved the Fable series, so there mmust have been something good in there. But when I played them, I just did not find it interesting at all.
Yeah, I agree. I agree because Farrell famously brought Fable to Mac way back I say famously or again infamously because they announced it. And it took them like 2.5 years to finish the port. That was like brutal. I don't even know the story. I never got the story behind that, even though I tried to pry it out of Edwin, the lead dev there. Yeah, don't know. But I noticed after that they stopped announcing games in advance.
Yeah.
Other than like a month or a week or two.
Yeah.
Yeah. They shot themselves on the because I think they were taking pre-orders as well for like years, and obviously that led to problems and refunds rough. And yada yada yada. Yeah, Fable was an interesting one. I think I got it before I was into journalism. It was around the same time. It was more the conceit of it, right? Because you could like your character would actually like live and grow, and couldn't you like die of old age or something? I can't even remember.
I mean, that's one of those things that Peter Molyneux kept saying, but I don't know how. Like, I certainly never really saw any of that in the game. To me, it's all seemed very surface level, but
right.
I don't know. It might be possible that if you just kept it on for 70 years that your character would die of old age, but I would die of old age by or boredom, maybe.
Right. I think it was technically possible in the game, and you could get like married and have a family, and they would supposed to look like you and your partner, and like all this like stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think back then it was revolutionary. Like you could actually just like grow a beard or change your hair or like whatever, or maybe your clothes would get tattered by the weather. I don't quite recall. It was like I mean, this was a late 2007-ish game, I want to say. Maybe that's
I think it was near the release of the original or of the Xbox 360. So yeah, around then.
Right. But yeah, so again, very ambitious games. Whether they always live up to the ambition, is questionable. But he tries. He swings for the fences. So we'll see what he does with Masters of Albion. Albion. I don't know how to say it exactly.
Who knows?
There was, lots of other games announced at Gamescom. I think there's a new Batman game coming. Like, if I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it's Rocksteady though. I didn't look into that yet. There's a new Indiana Jones. And I say new. I guess it's new because there hasn't been one in ages. I think the last ones were by LucasArts in the 90s or something. This is by Machine Games, who does a lot of stuff. They did the the new Wolfenstein games, for example, which I'm very fond of, honestly. What else did they do? They did a couple games. They have like a decent pedigree. They're not like tip top, but people like them more or less. So yeah, new Indiana Jones game, and it has some archaic sounding subtitle. I forget. So are we likely to? I want to say, didn't they also do an Amnesia game? No, I'm thinking.
I don't know.
No, I'm thinking it's called Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs, and I was mixing that up with Machine Games. Never
right. Yeah, that's the sequel of Amnesia.
Yeah. I knew there was a machine in there, so I was like, wait a minute. Yeah.
With respect to the Batman games, was it only did one come to Mac, or was it only two that came to Mac? Arkham City.
Two of them came. It was Batman Arkham Asylum, which Farrell did,
Asylum
and then Batman Arkham City, which Farrell did. So the first two, and the third one tanked like so outrageously hard. I think they just canceled any possible plans for it. Got removed from Steam at some point for a long time, and back. Yeah.
But Knight was pretty good as well. So they had that dip of Origins, and then they came back with Arkham Knight. That was pretty good again. But
right,
that one you can run through crossover, but that's about it, and it doesn't run that well right now. But maybe later will get better.
Okay, it's called Arkham Shadow, and it's set between Origins and Asylum. So it's like a sequel, prequel, or I think they call it a requel or some funny name.
Betweenquel.
Like yeah, something like that. Let's see. Is this a Rocksteady game though? Who is making this? I didn't check that. I'm checking it right now. Oh no. It's exclusive for MetaQuest 3. That's why I was wondering why I didn't see more buzz about it. Because it wasn't like, because of course Rocksteady just made Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which is mega flopped beyond all flops, unfortunately. I'm not happy about that. I wish it would have succeeded.
But there was also one of those, little interactive demos where you are Batman and you look in the mirror and stuff that was used to market one of the VR headsets that probably was one of the earlier MetaQuests. So it kind of makes sense that they're chasing that market, because that was one of the things that made everyone go, wow, this is really cool tech. People talked about that a lot for a while at least. So yeah,
makes sense. yeah, that was the main, like, the highlights of Gamescom for me. There may be others. I guess, and just to shout out handful of more games. Marathon Infinity came out on Steam now, which is, of course, the LF1, fan-made custom thing. So it all runs on modern hardware and has, like, ultra-wide support and slightly better graphics and full mouse and keyboard and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, go check it out. Honestly, Marathon Infinity is probably my least favorite entry in the series. Like, I think it's maybe the best multiplayer version, but PvP, that is, not co-op, because you can co-op as well. Marathon 2 is easily just the best game in the series, but Infinity's cool. It's one of those, like, for me, as, again, like, a huge fan of them way back, I always bought them, like, day one. Actually, my brother bought Marathon 2 and I bought Infinity. But I played them to death and back and forth and messed around with them in their, I don't think it was called Forge and Anvil. Maybe those were the myth tools. Anyway, they gave you the editing tools. I, like, messed around with the physics and the guns and the enemies and the levels. My older brothers would make levels. Like, we were all into it. Infinity is interesting. I'm happy they're out. Now they're all out. Marathon Original, Marathon 2, and Infinity. They're all out on Steam, and of course they have Mac support and PC, so and they're just free. You just get them. You don't have to pay. So
nice.
No reason to not check it out as, like, a slice of Mac gaming history. Yeah. You should probably check out, if you haven't checked out any, I would recommend Marathon 1 or 2. 2 is really, like, the king, so that's easy. The problem with Marathon Infinity, and this is, like, pretty much everyone agrees, is it's, for me as a sequel, it didn't do enough. All it added is one new weapon, and I believe no new enemies whatsoever. So that's, like, for an entirely new shooter game, even back then, that's like, come on. Like, Marathon 1 to 2 was an incredibly huge leap. Multiple new guns, tons of new enemies, obviously wildly different level design, because instead of being stuck on the USC Marathon ship, which is all, like, dark corridors and shadows, small rooms, you went across multiple worlds and just all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like Borderlands 1 to Borderlands 2 times, like, 100. Like, that sort of a jump. But Marathon Infinity, yeah. So I was disappointed. I mean, I was a kid back then, but I'm like, what? One new gun? Okay, you could fire underwater and in space in zero G, like, because you went to levels with no oxygen, then you had an oxygen meter. So it was like a flechette gun, or flechette, however you say that. So you're often underwater in Marathon, funny enough, but you can only use your fists. So you had the new gun, which could also shoot underwater and in zero G or whatever. So that's cool, but that was it. No new enemies, one new gun. And the story was so convoluted. Oh my God. Maybe I could understand it going back now, but as a kid, it just, like, hurt my brain. I could not follow it. And they thought it would be hilarious to design, like, endless loop levels. You could literally get stuck in the game. Like, because it messes with time. You teleport back and forth to different places. You can even revisit the same level multiple times, but, like, things have changed. Sounds cool, except when they stick you into, like, multiple maze puzzle levels, and if you take the wrong exit, you get, like, sent back to the beginning of some other level and have to do it again until you're like, oh, there's 10 different terminals, and they'll teleport you to different levels that are all, like, dead ends. And you're just, like, losing your mind. Like, you just want to play I don't know. It's like Marathon 1 and 2 didn't have any of that shenanigans. So it was, like, a weird thing to add on to the finale game. Not a fan. But that was okay. I'm sorry. I'm ranting about Marathon now. I love the series. Go check it out. But I think if you're going to check out one game and you've never checked them out, do not start with Infinity. I don't think it's the best introduction to the game. I think Marathon 2 is, or possibly Marathon 1, depending on your tastes. If you prefer a more claustrophobic, almost sort of horror-ish game, I think Marathon 1 is better for that. But if you're only going to play one and never one more, do Marathon 2. So that's Durendal. It's amazing. Okay, sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
I still have the theme song for Marathon 2 stuck in my head, like, forever.
Nice.
Marathon. Or they seem to say marathon instead of thon. And then it's like this like almost heavy metal rock sort of thing. And then it fades out, you know. And of course, they're the precursors to Halo, and I have a huge love of Halo overall. And so there's just this, like, and of course Bungie, and I'm a, like, rabid Myth fan, and I loved Oni. So, like, again, it's like this history nostalgia thing. Like,
do you think the next Destiny game is going to be called Infinite? Because they did the Marathon Infinity, and then Halo got an Infinite at some point.
I think you're on to something.
They're all trending towards Infinity.
You're right. Of course, Bungie is famously making a new Marathon game that's an extraction shooter. So
Mm-hmm.
I won't rant about that. I think it visually looks cool from the teasers, but I hate extraction shooters. So I'm like, did you really have to turn Marathon into an extraction shooter? What are we, Escape from Tarkov? Is this 5 year? Like, what? This feels like a 5-year-old trend they're like releasing now.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be amazing. I could be wrong, but
yeah, it's not really my thing either, but we'll see.
Yeah, I guess I've ranted about this before on the show, but with the enduring success still of like good single player games, I'm just surprised that a studio who used to make very successful single player games back in like the 90s and early 2000s doesn't just make another single player game that has an enormous built-in like fan base and reputation, and it'd just be like a slam dunk, But yeah. I'm probably repeating myself, so I will skip that. One last game, and then we can move on to some other tech rumor-ish stuff. So shout out to Frigid Man from Inside Mac Games. He turned me tuned in, or he's the one who shouted this out, and I looked at it. It's a game called Jitter, and it's on Steam. It's by an indie dev, Ukrainian actually. There's like a Ukrainian game fest that I think just happened on Steam. Maybe it's still ongoing, or it already finished. Right now it's listed as PC only, but he's somehow in contact with the devs, and they told them they are going to work on a Mac version. They're just doing the PC first, like one thing at a time. Understandably. And as far as I know, they actually are in Ukraine. They're not just Ukrainian elsewhere. They're like living in Ukraine under all that active duress, making this game. I think that's cool. But leaving that aside, I think the game looks really fun. I like the graphics. It's like an old school sort of pixely black-green, like more muted colors sort of thing. And you play an AI trying to like rediscover your crew, basically. So like you're the AI of a spaceship. So you have to explore, fight, survive, build across a colony. And I just like to look at the graphics and the gameplay. It has a current PC demo. Hopefully they'll have a Mac demo as well. Planned release date 2025 sometime, but you just want to shout out. It's not Jitters with an S, just Jitter. But yeah, I like the look of it a lot, and maybe go and wish list it or something. Weirdly enough, or for whatever reason, apparently wish listing on Steam is like a really big metric or a big deal for devs and everything.
Steam uses it a lot to figure out if they should show games to other people. So the more people wish listing, especially like an up and coming game that hasn't been released yet, the more Steam is going to promote it when it does come out, and obviously also before it comes out to other people. That then feedback loop, more people wishlist it, more people see it.
Right.
So yeah, it's a very big deal to especially smaller indie games who don't automatically get a lot of promotion.
Yeah, I went and wishlisted and followed it, so I'll see any like news updates from the library as well, and that's kind of fun. So yeah, check it out. Jitter. Wanted to shout them out. That's it for me on games. Did you have any game to shout out or even comment on? Maybe something you've been playing or whatever?
Not really. I've mainly still been playing Pathfinder, honestly. It's such an incredibly long game. But I'm still having a blast with it. Stays lovely and fun until the end, it seems.
Nice. Yeah, I've almost gotten into the Owl. What are they? Owlcat games or whatever. Their Rogue Trader game has received tons of updates and DLC, and I'm still like, maybe. But then I'm like, I'm still in Act 1 of Baldur's Gate 3. Can I really justify it? Probably not.
I mean, I wouldn't start something like that if you're already doing Baldur's Gate. I'm personally waiting with starting Baldur's Gate until after Pathfinder, so...
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. There's more game. I mean, there's PC games coming. I have an eye on Space Marine 2 coming out. Stalker 2. There was a 35-minute deep dive video, which was pretty cool. It wasn't pure gameplay. A lot of it was intercut multiple like developers talking. There was like a lady and a few guys who are all like various like heads of departments and stuff, like the level design guy and the story person, and I think the maybe lead game dev. And so is that. I mean, it's interesting. I was both, because I watched it just the other day. Stalker never came to Mac, but it's very easy to play on crossover. The old ones anyway. You can still play it today as far as I know. And I played all the Stalker games. Again, I'm a huge fan. So, well, of course, I hope, because it's, it has a big old reputation. It's a big upcoming game release. And of course, I'm hoping maybe at some point it'll somehow get pushed onto Mac because of Apple's whole thing, their push for games and whatever. But it surprisingly looks like Stalker, but updated. And that's not a bad thing, because the original games, even though they're old by now, they're actually fairly complex. Like they were they were like light sim lights. There was dynamic day and night and weather systems. The AI was pretty good, even though it was back then. Again, quite dynamic, different AI for all like the zone and the monsters and the humans. Even the different factions had different AI.
Mm-hmm.
Like the military faction was more aggressive, and there was another faction, the weapon, the weapon mod system was fairly in depth for a game of its time. You could switch out scopes and ammo types and barrels and like not like full Call of Duty, gunsmith or whatever, but for like a game like the first one, even like again 2008 or something, 7 maybe, like quite impressive. So they've just kind of taken all that and they seem to have stuffed it into the new game. That's just like a huge open zone with lots of good visuals, good environment. They do seem to be trying to tell more of a story with this one, which is cool. But again,
the first one is I've never played any of the subsequent ones. I've only ever played Shadow of Chernobyl, but that was very open ended and just wander out there and do some things.
Yeah, so they seem to be keeping that, but the old games had loading zones. The new one is just a seamless open world, like huge. But of course, different parts of the zone have like sort of different ecosystems, and of course, different like factions and monsters and anomalies. Yeah, the first one is arguably the best because it's the first. Clear Sky, the second one, was not very good. It was a drop. But then Call of Duty, oh my god, Stalker, Call of Pripyat. Thank you. That one I enjoyed it the most. It was like a little more ambitious. Had like a faction system as well. You could side with people, and they would like go after you. And again, new guns, new places. There's actually a mod out there that stitches all 3 games together, like Total War, Grand Empire style, which is pretty insane. So you can play like this ridiculous, huge, Stalker game. But yeah, I think it looks really promising. And again, single player focused, none of this like crammed in shoehorn multiplayer stuff. And yeah, it has good graphics. The environment looks cool. The monsters look cool. The guns look cool. And apparently there's some more story. Even the first game had multiple endings depending on what you did. Yeah. And of course, the whole game is inspired by the book, The Roadside Picnic, I think it's called, or maybe it's just Roadside Picnic. Older book. We read it recently because someone gave it to me. Actually, my friend David. When was this released? 1971 and 1972, so quite old. But the stalking games are actually inspired by it because this book is set in a type of zone and there's anomalies. Yeah. And there's this like magic wish fulfilling thing at the center of the zone everyone's trying to get to, which is the story of the first game, which you can actually get to it. And depending on what you did throughout the game, you get all these different endings. So it's pretty fun. In a sense, because the Metro games reminded me of Stalker in some ways. Because
I can definitely see that.
Yeah, you can see that for sure. Though they have sort of a fixed karma system I was less fond of in the Metro games, but that's kind of getting off track. In any case, they're very cool games. They're always a little janky, but ambitious, extremely immersive, really fun environments, always a lot of cool gunplay and like gun mods and all this fun stuff. So yeah, maybe it's Stalker 2 something. Oh my god, what's it called?
The Chernobyl is still in the name.
Heart of Chernobyl.
Yeah, there you go.
Heart of Chernobyl. Or they switched the spelling from the Russian to the Ukrainian one or something because for obvious reasons. Yes. But same thing in the end. Just the format. Yeah, so Stalker 2. It's out. It's been delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. But it's supposed to be out November 20 or November something, like soon. So
since we've moved or broadened to also talk about general PC games and not just things that have Mac lineage. Yeah. One thing that is actually on my radar, something cool that has been announced for way later, is that they're doing a Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake scheduled for 2026. So that's quite far ahead, but I loved the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time trilogy back in the day. And I've been dreaming of a remake of the first Sands of Time for a while. So I have high hopes, but it's so far away that we basically have no more info than it's happening.
Well, that's cool. Like for fans of like yourself, I'm more of a fan of the old side-scroller black and white one, and then I think they did a color version. Yeah. And then there was a second one, which was full color, and you had like an hour to play the game in real time. I think it was this funny thing, like this hourglass mechanic. Yeah. That's really the last time I played them. I dabbled around, I think, in some sort of demos, or maybe I even pirated a copy of one of the Sands of Time. I don't think it was the original one though. And it was like, oh, it's all third person and cool and animated, but I didn't play through it. But I think the IP is great. I think the characters are fun and can do really cool stuff with. Oh, I guess I played the weird cell shaded one. Just I think it was called just Prince of Persia or something.
Oh yeah, that one wasn't that good.
I mean, it was amazing visually, but the gameplay
it looks fine, but
was meh. Yeah, that was actually a cider port on Mac, if I recall, way back. The old crossover tech.
Didn't realize
it was a little jittery, but it did work.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't
I mean, you can't buy it today, but way back I did. 2008 maybe, I think it came out. Yeah, or 9.
Yeah, they've so they did like the Sands trilogy of Sands of Time, Two Thrones, and Warrior Within, and then just ages passed, and then they released that one, and then they did a kind of sequel to the Sands trilogy. I think it was called Forgotten Sands or something like that, and then it's just been lying dormant for ages since then. So.
Right. Warrior Within, that's one I tried.
Yeah.
But yeah, very cool IP. I think it's great aesthetic. I even thought the movie was all right, but it definitely wasn't good. It was just like kind of fun. Yeah. Jake Gyllenhaal and some other lady whose name I forget in the main. Oh my god. Anyway, I didn't like the finale of it, but I think the IP is great. I'm happy to hear more games are coming. And once again, just with the Apple gaming ecosystem growing, and as we've discussed in previous episodes, not only speculatively, but what's actually happening with, more devs promising games to come that already have or will be coming. It's just laying more foundational groundwork for hopefully stuff like maybe the Stalker or a new Prince of Persia or whatever to show up on Mac later too, which would be awesome. Because that side-scrolly one is already coming. We talked about it.
Oh yeah, Lost
maybe
Crown.
2 episodes.
Crown.
Like 2 episodes ago, because it was in the photo of with the Apple event.
Yeah, that one's coming. That's true.
So that's maybe if that does decently, they're like, hey, people like Prince of Persia on the Mac. Let's do the 2026 one too. So
might happen.
Know. Might happen. Yeah.
Now that I'm saying this, I also remember another thing I wanted to mention. Piranha Bytes closed down. I think that was in July that happened.
Oh, really?
Just haven't heard of it until then.
You're right. Yeah.
And so they didn't have a long history on the Mac, but they did have Elix 2 on the Mac.
Right.
So that is a studio that has shipped something on the Mac that's now no longer there. And I've mentioned before in like my favorite games of all time that I absolutely loved the Gothic series. That was Piranha Bytes as well. Did the Risen games and all that. So unfortunately they've closed down, stopped producing more games. Big German studio for quite a while, and it's over now. I don't know what's happening to the IP if Elix and Gothic and that sort of thing can keep living with other people. I know that a Gothic 1 remake is still in the works by different people, where the original composer for Gothic is involved with that project. So that's still happening. Other people own that, but I don't know about Elix and Risen and that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, looking at their history, I see 2001 Gothic, 2002 Gothic 2. That's a quick turnaround. 2003 Gothic 2, something else.
Yeah, that was a DLC.
2006, Gothic 3. So that was like a real jump. Then 3 years later, Risen. 2009, again 3 years later, Risen 2 Dark Waters. 2012. 2014, Risen 3 Titan Lords. 2017, Elix. And then 2022, Elix 2. So yeah, they have more or less a 1 to 3 year development cycle, but then a 5 year between Elix and Elix 2. Yeah, no, it's too bad. It's too bad whenever a studio closes down. It looked complicated because there was Embracer involved, but also THQ Nordic, and then of course the company themselves, and all this like sort of, I mean, when companies close down, it's financial, one way or the other.
Yeah, as far as I heard, Embracer Group tried selling off the studio, but didn't find enough buyers who were interested in paying enough for it, and then just dropped it. So.
Yeah, that was a big unfortunate thing with Embracer. They overcommitted hard and bought like a zillion studios, and then some, $2 billion deal fell through with I forget who. That came out who it was, and then they're like, oh, we're suddenly in a huge deficit. Time to start selling studios. We just bought recently or whatever. So that, it's just the unfortunate cutthroat world of corporatism or capitalism or whatever you want to call it. Some people benefit from it, and some people get axed. It's just the way of it, sadly. Yeah, and of course, when it's a developer you like, it's always like it feels bad. I think Elix 2 looks solid. I never got into it. I think I may have covered it back when I was doing some stuff with Mr. Mac, right? I'm pretty sure I talked about it in like a script or something. But that's, I think, as far as I got and watched some gameplay. Yeah, I mean, I have a real fondness for European game developers. They tend to make games I really like for some reason. I mean, I
I
think
would
that's true of a
say
lot of people.
I would say pretty much all of Piranha Bytes games are very unpolished gemstones. Like
Right, right,
they are very rough around the edges, but they are amazing if you can look past it.
right, right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, rip Piranha Bytes. Yeah, I hope the devs, find some homes elsewhere and get to make some other games they love and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
yeah, GG Piranha Bytes. GG. Um, yeah, I think that's it for game stuff. I mean, I could probably until like basically our next big games episode is probably more like November when stuff starts coming out, like Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I think some of those other games we mentioned maybe
Mhm.
2 episodes ago, starting to release maybe, and we'll probably get back then. But now it's time for the rumor mill or the rumor engine or whatever,
Boom, 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 boom,
aka
boom.
Mac Rumors, literally
Yeah.
sourced from MacRumors.com.
At least some of it. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, one big thing that's on the radar is that we all know that every September there's the iPhone event, but it's
Yeah.
looking to be the September 10th, which lines up because it's usually on a Tuesday, and September 10th is a Tuesday, and it's the second
Right,
week of
yeah.
September. It all fits.
Right.
So that
right,
seems
right.
to be likely. Obviously, that's going to reveal the next generation of A series chips that will obviously have a lot in common with the future M series. So we're going to see some interesting things from the technical side on that.
Yeah.
Anything they say from like a foundational architecture perspective at that event, from the GPU is going to have these features, the CPU will have these features, or whatever, that'll carry on to future Macs at some point. So from that perspective, even if you don't care about the new phone release, that's an exciting event to some degree, right? Because we get to see more tech.
Right.
Aside from that, there's been some more information coming out about the M4 Macs that are probably just around the corner. I'm thinking October, November timeframe for a reveal of the first bunch of M4 Macs. Looks
Right.
like they are going to get a RAM increase. Everybody seems to be thinking. Unclear if it's going to start at 12 gigabytes or 16, probably 12, because people are saying that the M4 iPad, even though it only exposes 8 or 16 gigabytes of RAM to the system, depending on which configuration you have, that in fact it is at least 12 gigabytes on the lower end, maybe 18 on the upper end, or maybe it is just 16 and they just only cut some on the lower end model. I forget, but
Right.
something like that, and that'll carry over to the Macs. But yeah, a few Macs have started showing up here and there in like statistic reports of what's being used around the various websites and stuff, that we see M chips cropping up in Mac OS systems. Aside from that, we don't really know
Nice.
much more.
But it's fun. It's out there in the wild.
Yeah.
Just
So
not
something is
coming
being
in.
tested every once in a while.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
Um,
The one thing that caught my eye was apparently there's some sort of Apple robot rumored to be coming in maybe 2026.
Yeah, this keeps cropping up every now and then. I hear it. I think I've been hearing about it the last 4 or so years on off. It's said that it's supposed to be part of the HomePod family, and it will effectively be like a HomePod with an iPad sticking out the top of it with wheels that'll roll around, following you around. I don't know. I think this is something Apple may be testing every once in a while, going like, is this a good idea? No, it's not. Let's stop doing that. But who knows? Maybe they conclude that it is something that they should bring to market. But I honestly don't think that it's going to go that far. I think they every once in a while just evaluate it and go, no, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree. The only reason I think this is maybe slightly more credible now in terms of like Apple, let's actually try this, is apparently it's supposed to leverage the new Apple Intelligence, which of course has been a little mixed, but maybe in a couple of years when it's a lot more robust and they launch whatever this robot we want to call it, obviously it won't be called the Apple robot, they'll have some name.
Yeah.
It's the
iRobot.
iRobot. Oh no. Yeah. Copyright.
Yeah.
Old Will Smith movie. Was that like 2005 or something? Anyway,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, old fun movie though. I liked it. I'm not interested because I want to buy one. I'm just interested because it's like sort of a fun gadget. Like if it actually does what it says, it would be cool. I don't own any of the HomePod, SmartPod, whatever stuff, but
what's it really going to like do for you? I don't get it. Like
I have no idea.
A smart speaker that follows you around, so it's always there. Is that just the idea? Like that doesn't seem that much better than just because it's going to be significantly more expensive than a regular HomePod, right? Because it's going to have the iPad on top of it and can move and all that jazz, right? So
the what do you call it? The rumor photo, if you will. It's not a real photo. It's like someone literally took a HomePod speaker and like stuck an iMac thing on top of it. It looks hilarious in like Mac rumor photo, like a bad Photoshop. But no offense to whoever did it. It just like if that's what it somehow looks like, it just makes me laugh somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's supposed to follow you around in its new version. So it's claiming here thin robotic arm that would allow the display to tilt up and down and rotate a full 360 and serve as a quote unquote smart home command center, video conferencing machine, and a home security monitoring tool. I mean, it's actually pretty cheap to set up your own like home security system if you wanted. Cameras are dirt. I know this because my brother does it. Cameras are dirt cheap, and you can just have them show up on any old monitor. It's like really easy. Anyway, you don't need some probably $500 to $1,000 Apple robot thingamajig to do it. You could do it for like $100 or $200. So anyway,
and a lot of them you can integrate with HomeKit as well, as you can bring up the feed on your phone or
my brother just does it on his phone. He
exactly
does it all from there. So yeah, we'll see. Could be another ill-advised, much like the Apple Car, gets abandoned or whatever. But obviously, especially as Apple Intelligence, if it really lives up to everything they claim, maybe in the next 2, 3, 5 years even, they're going to want to like make these odd devices that use it, because that's the only way they would basically work, is if they were actually like really smart or somehow could really learn like you and your home life or your whatever it is, your preferences, your setup or something.
Yeah, but I'm already walking around with a phone, my watch. I have Macs almost in every room. I don't have them in the bathroom and in the bedroom, but aside from that, they're everywhere. Some people have Apple TVs lying around. I don't anymore, but I had at some point, and all
that's
that. Right?
The play.
It's
buy
already
the Apple
everywhere.
Robot and mount it to your bathroom, so when you're in the tub, you can like watch the security feed, or
okay, there we go. That's the pitch.
Or God forbid, video conference someone when you're in the tub.
That's what it's for. And then they can use that Apple Intelligence to blur out all the bits no one's supposed to see and put me in a suit or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. The joke there was like, well, next you get rid of all that and you get the Apple chip inserted into your brain and bloodstream or whatever. Then you are the Apple. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
No, I think there's going to be a lot of weird R&D in the next 5 to 10 years with Apple. Maybe that's true of a lot of tech companies, but let's just stick to Apple for the sake of the discussion. Like these like started and abandoned projects, I think they're going to keep happening because, well, A, they're always trying to come up with new products, and B, tech increases and they have their whole, I don't want to say supposed Apple Intelligence, they do have it, but how effective or useful or broad application it is remains to be seen. And of course, they have the Apple Vision Pro. That was another rumor I heard. There's supposed to be a much cheaper version of the Apple Vision coming. I guess just what do they call it? The Apple Vision, not the Pro.
Yeah, I mean, Apple Vision Air, Apple Vision Pro, Apple Vision Max, Apple Vision, I don't know,
Apple Vision Pro Lite.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Apple Vision Plus. There's so many names that they can just grab from their big pile of suffixes.
But purportedly it's supposed to be like half the price of the current ones, so
that's good.
We'll see. But what features they give up for that, who knows? But yeah,
I mean, if we legitimately get to half the price, it's not unreasonable that I might get one to check out.
Correct. I'm also feeling that way. So
it depends how much they cut feature wise to get to that price point as well. Right?
That's the thing. If they cut too much, I'm going to be like, don't know about that. Yeah.
But if the next one gets an M4 chip and the light one remains on the M2 chip, and the displays aren't too shit or anything, then I could see myself doing that. So that's neat.
What else? I think I think there's maybe supposed to be some new AirPods Max 2 coming, possibly.
That's very much a maybe. People talk
Maybe,
about
yeah.
the September 10th event there, that they're gonna talk about new AirPods.
AirPod 4s, I think, are supposed to be coming.
Yeah, they're pretty much I won't say guaranteed, but pretty expected.
Right.
AirPods 4, maybe new AirPods Pro, and maybe new AirPods Max, but the Pro and the Max are less likely.
Right, yeah.
Max definitely are old at this point compared to the rest of the
Yeah,
AirPods
oddly,
lineup. But at the same time, like, they often add smart features to the smaller versions, where I have a suspicion that people who buy the Max buy them more with an intent for higher audio quality than an intent for like greater levels of smarts in them.
Right.
And there's a greater limit to how much you can evolve audio quality in a fixed form factor over time. So I don't know how much the need is there, but there's definitely features in the newer AirPods Pros and stuff that could be nice to have on a future iteration of the Max as well, like the adaptive transparency mode, the adaptive noise cancellation mode, where it's still lets people in talking to you, but everything else gets muted and that sort of thing. The Max can't do that because of the H1 chip just not being up to it and stuff. So there's room for improvements without necessarily needing to be huge audio advantages. But I don't know. I'm gonna give it another year in my prediction book, but it could happen this time.
Yeah. I'm only because I'm still using my Astro. I think Gen 3s these are, which are solid, but I wouldn't mind. They're very good, in fact, but I wouldn't mind perhaps a Gen 2 AirPods Max at some point. Because these aren't really like, you use them, they're not wireless, so you got to use them. It's funny, the old version, the Gen 1 Astros, you could actually just plug into your phone and use them that way, like a regular pair of headphones. But then you actually sell it wrong side. You sell it a microphone on it too, which is fun. Actually took them once, like on an international trip. So I was walking around looking kind of like this, which felt a little silly, but they were big and comfortable, and they didn't have noise cancellation, but since they fit over the ears well, they kind of muffled like in an airport. And it was just a wire plug into my phone. It was great. But the new versions removed that option, so you're forced to. I'm sorry, they are wireless, but they don't work wirelessly with phones. They're not Bluetooth.
So you
in any case,
put like a little transceiver into something or whatever.
Yeah, something. I think they might have anyway, they're very good for a computer, but they're not like roaming. So I'd be more interested in like selling these on eBay or something and getting a newer AirPods Max version.
I've been pretty satisfied with the Max, but they do, like, if I wear them for too much at a time, they do give me a bit of like, it feels like a pressure on my ear or something. That's a bit discomforting. But okay,
yeah, I've poked around for some deals in the AirPod Maxes, but didn't, like you got one, I wasn't able to. So yeah, I'd rather just wait for a slightly updated version or whatever in it too, because I'm not in a hurry. But I definitely would prefer an all-around one that I could use at the computer and on the go. That would, I have a pair of I think Gen 1 AirPod Pros, or maybe they're Gen 2, which are great. But again, sometimes they're a little, I tend to just use them around, in the car, or maybe I'm even like mowing the lawn. They're good enough to like block out noise or whatever. Like, I think they're really good, but I'm also sort of a headset fiend. So I also want to get a bigger one, essentially.
Does Apple still have any other products in their lineup with Lightning instead of USB-C? Because the AirPods Max still have Lightning.
That's correct.
The trackpad and the keyboard might still be Lightning as well, right?
Well, the old ones are, at least. I know my brother has an older Magic Pad or whatever the heck it's called. My AirPod Pros, because they're like 2 years old now, they're still Lightning. I believe the newest ones are USB-C.
Yeah. The AirPods Pro are definitely USB-C now.
Yeah. The Gen, whatever the latest Gen.
But I'm thinking if that might be like a good enough reason for Apple to just like upgrade the AirPods Max for no other reason than just like, let's get rid of Lightning once and for all. We're done. We don't need to manufacture them anymore.
Yeah, they do have to at some point because their phones are
the
switching.
European law only says that they have to for new products. As long as they just keep making an existing product, they don't have to.
I see. So AirPods Max Gen 1 forever, never updated. That will keep Apple's Lightning production alive and revenue stream for Lightning cables. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I would love USB-C everywhere universally for all my Apple stuff. That would be great. Because I'm in the awkward...
we're gonna get there. It's
yeah.
If you have the very latest of everything at this point, you're almost there.
Yeah, for me, honestly, it's just my computer. That's it. My M1 Pro. Because
of course that can also charge with USB-C, right? So
exactly, that's what I mean. And I carry that around in my bag as a backup cable, or even sometimes I leave it at work or something. Occasionally bring my computer, and I don't bring my MagSafe. I just bring the brick, and then boop, there we go, easy. Yeah, it's great. It's great, very convenient. Eventually, my phone's still fine, but eventually I'll get a phone that has it. When I feel like my AirPods have worn out, probably get a new set, so that'll have it. And then I guess that would kind of be it for my stuff. And then maybe a new AirPods Max eventually. Yeah.
I mean, I need to have both a Lightning and a USB-C connector or cable sticking out of my iMac, and I'd love to also just reduce that to one, because I never use both of them at the same time anyway. It's just because I have different things that connect to both things.
Correct. I have the same thing. I have a USB hub. I have multiple cables. Some of them even have adapters, because I have like an excess actually of USB-C cables now, but I'm still using a bunch of Lightning stuff, so I have the adapters plugged in.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. USB-C to regular USB and blah, blah, blah. So I have all these like adapters and configs around. It's a little pesky. We'll get there. But yeah, that's probably it for today. Yeah, we'll see what's coming up. I guess with the September event, we'll probably have some stuff to talk about next month.
Yeah, there's the next few months, there's probably going to be a few events, like the September iPhone event, where we'll also see Apple Watch and maybe newer, smaller iPads. We'll see, but some stuff there. And then October, November, we're probably going to have the big Mac event. One of those.
Hopefully. So, yeah, correct. So, yeah, that'll be our next future episodes. But that is it for today. Some fun game stuff, some rumor stuff, some actual tech hardware stuff. And that'll be it. So thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for being here, Casper. And we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.